Welcome back, everybody, to the Skyfall sessions. I'm your host, John. Let's get into some news of Walz essentially blasting Trump, covered by TYT. Let's get into it.
He doesn't know business, and he damn sure doesn't know the middle class. So look, and for all of you, I'm gonna be generous. We are all products of our past. When you grow up a middle-class kid in Oakland or in Butte, Nebraska, you care about Social Security. You care about these things. When you're sitting down in Mar-a-Lago and you tell your rich friends, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut, it doesn't matter to them. And you know what? When my mom looks for that Social Security deposit to be made in her bank account, that's how she's going to feed herself. That's how she's going to get things done. He doesn't give a damn if his Social Security check comes or not. So let's be very clear. If any of our relatives or anyone gives us this, if they tell us, well, Donald Trump's understand us, he does not understand.
This is the Tim Walz that I love, all right? So he came out fiery. Then when they went on the campaign trail with the interviews and stuff, he kind of walked things back a little bit. And now he's coming back to the Tim Walz that I like.
I love all the substance there. I also love how much energy Tim Walz is bringing on a day in which Donald Trump is now facing all of these questions about whether he has the physical stamina to even make it to election day, let alone to govern as president for 4 years. He's canceling all these events left and right. Tim Walz is going like a mile a minute. Like that was like if Ben Shapiro had any of the right policies, then it might look like that. But I think it's a great point. Donald Trump, it is amazing to me that he has been able to win over virtually any working class people. You talked about some of the ways that he weaponizes things the Democrats have done, and I think it makes sense that you would do that. But I mean, this is a guy who despises workers, despises paying them, and he doesn't even hide it like other Republicans do. He will talk to a group of people, many of the working class, and be like, oh man, don't you hate overtime? Oh, paying these peasants overtime, I just hate it. And he goes to, rich billionaires, as we'll talk about. And he's like, I'm gonna give you benefit. You give me $1 billion, I'll cut all the regulations on you. And he talks to rich people, as Tim Walz said, and said, I'm gonna give you rich people a tax credit. Like, he barely hides it at all. And they don't.
He doesn't hide it at all because he doesn't know to hide it. He's that dumb. He's that dumb.
Don't seem to have a problem with it. And look, to some extent, he does try to win over people who aren't already wealthy. So he'll throw out something like this with almost no thought. He'll say, that taxes on tips should be taken away. We'll have more to say about that. Or seniors should not pay tax on Social Security. And you know how much thinking he did about that? Exactly as long as it took to bleat that out. That's all.
Right.
He hasn't really thought about it. And there's a lot of issues with it. Now, John Larson in my home state of Connecticut, he says one of the fatal mistakes is that it wouldn't make up for the revenue that would be lost. He comes out and says he's going to have a tax cut, but doesn't say how he's going to pay for it. In essence, his proposal would end up cutting the Social Security Trust Fund. And my issue with that isn't that it's inaccurate. My issue is that, Representative Larson, why are you pretending like this is a thing that he actually means to do? Like, he's just saying it, man. He's not going to do it. He's not going to cut the taxes on that or on tips. I mean, even if he didn't, like, again, the scam here, particularly with the tips, is the only people who would really benefit from those tax changes are people who make way more than the working class people who believe he's talking to them. They are not going to benefit that. Wealthy hedge fund managers are going to pay off their bonuses and things. But anyway, I want to jump to just one more graphic, perhaps the best example of what Walz was saying there about how he doesn't understand working class people. He said in 2019, and I'll never get tired of reminding people of this, if you want to go out and buy groceries, you need identification. If you want to do almost anything, you need identification. The only thing that you don't need identification for is to vote. The most important single thing you're doing to vote. You do provide identification when you vote. You don't have like a national voter ID card, but you do. You can't just walk up and be like, I'm Jim. Jim who? Jim, just write me down as a Jim. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. And what grocery store are you going to that wants to check your ID? I love that. It's been 5 years since then. Not a single right-winger has been physically capable of admitting how deeply worrying that statement is.
Right. Like, I don't understand that Trump says stuff, people go along with it. They either figure out that he was wrong later and then don't say anything, or they just continue to believe the ridiculous lies.
But Francesca, final thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan brought up an interesting point about kind of the lane that's been opened by, Democrats and Republicans, consensus around neoliberal economics, which again, we shouldn't confuse with like liberalism. Like neoliberal economics are something that Republicans and Democrats have participated in. And they have also led to, yes, the collapse of national industry and shipping jobs abroad. And sadly, Donald Trump answers that through anti-immigration rhetoric. And if we really were to go with him on this and say, just imagine that, yeah, immigrants are taking our jobs because we were all farm workers and then the immigrants came in and we were all displaced. That is obviously not happening. Donald Trump proves how little he knows about farm work this week in the Univision town hall. But the real answer is, well, why would certain workers undercut the jobs of others? Like, wouldn't the labor protections of that industry and wouldn't the labor protections of those workers ensure their job stability? Isn't the answer not to vilify and demonize one another, but actually to make job protections more robust? Right. Oh, but you want to do away with OSHA? So just like no occupational safety standards whatsoever, no hazard standards. You can breathe in all the asbestos you want, and you
I'm pretty sure that Trump doesn't even know what OSHA does.
Can't sue your employer for it. Amazing. So this is the reality of it, is the answer to it. And Kamala Harris gets us maybe halfway there, right? And I think to the extent she just tweeted just now that, Donald Trump's a threat to the working class and to unions, we need to stand by unions. And I think that was the one part of Biden's legacy that is incredible and important to stand on, is his support of unions. Right. It's like, that's the answer to Trumpism. That's the answer to we need to bring national industry back and slap all these tariffs. It's to have a worker-led, a union movement that actually, yes, make sure there's industry and manufacturing in this country, but doesn't simultaneously start a trade war with China and slap a bunch of tariffs on consumers, or that ultimately fall down on consumers.
Yeah, I think part of...
And just so you guys know, the Trump tariffs that he wants to put on China, tariffs are not paid by the country that sends the product. They're paid by the U.S., which trickles down to end up being paid by the U.S. consumer, because that cost ends up getting put on them. So yes, it is definitely like a tax on the American people.
This is a messaging issue. And John, you point out that quote from John Larson, who's trying to get into the details on a policy that Trump would never pursue. And I think that's misguided. You're just wasting bandwidth. Like you say, it should just be, this isn't going to happen. And we know that. We can see that through his actions. Why didn't you do this the first time? Something like that. On the no tax on tips thing, that's clearly geared toward, I don't know about clearly because I just made that connection recently, clearly geared toward winning over people in the service industry in Nevada. It's not nationwide. It's not really going to have, he's not going to pursue it, of course, but it's also, if enacted, it would be structured in a way that would allow wealthy people to restructure their compensation to exploit that loophole. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Harris, if you remember, also proposed something like that would be more pro-worker, and that upset Trump. He said, hey, whoa, she stole my policy. But where has that been? Why aren't they making that a big part of their message? I haven't heard them mention that since. If you're sincere and you really care about that, hammer that point and continue pointing out that one of his signature talking points of this cycle is insincere and you have a better alternative. Right. I haven't heard that since he got upset about it. Where is that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I once or twice I've heard. I don't remember where, which means it's not nearly enough. And to your point earlier, that's the sort of Trojan horse of that. It's that it's going to be millionaires that are actually benefiting off of this. Harris she wants to do the same thing. And look, I don't even know why this is a thing that all of a sudden everybody needs to focus on. As a person who worked for tips for many years, and also because of low income would not have benefited from this because that's how taxes work. Her plan caps it at $75,000. Like if you make more than $75,000, you can't use this loophole anymore. And so like Trump obviously would never do that. And that kind of reveals the whole point of this.
Right, yeah. So, okay, here's the thing. At the end of the day, the TLDR is that Trump wants to help rich people, isn't doing anything to help the working class people. Most people in the country are working class people, including most Trump supporters. So I don't know why you would want to support somebody who wants to literally make you pay more while giving tax cuts to the people that are already that rich. I know you've probably heard it for years. Look into it. That's actually what he's doing. They just explained it here. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. I'll check you guys out next time. Please like and subscribe. I'm almost 100 subscribers. if by the time you watch this video I'm at 100, then I'm happy. But yes, please like and subscribe, comment, engage any way you can, and I'll catch you guys next time.